What's going on? My name is Smoke, and this is a Smoak-n-gun review in comparison. I've been contemplating doing gun reviews now for about 10 years or so, and what a better way to start than with FN Manufacturing. If you're not familiar with them, the most battle-proven firearms on earth, and they've been manufacturing them for about 130 years now. So what I have is the 509 Compact MRD, and we'll be comparing it with its predecessor, the FNS Compact. So we'll go over what you're going to get with both of them, and we'll leave out the box, locks, manuals, and all the other crap that nobody cares about, and we'll go ahead and dive into this. So you're going to get a soft case, which is included with pretty much all of FN's pistols now, and when you open that, you're going to get this packet of hardware, which I'm not sure why they went with that option, because you're going to end up putting all your parts that you've busted out of that packet or taking off the weapon in Ziploc bags or plastic containers. Then you're going to get this sheet, which is going to go over which hardware you're going to need to mount each individual optic on the weapon. Then you're going to get your weapon, of course, included with a 12-round magazine with a pinky extension and a 15-round magazine with extended base plate. And on the FNS, I got the same soft case, the weapon, 12-round magazine with the flat base plate, 12-round magazine with the pinky extension, and a 17-round mag, which should have been included with the 509 in my opinion, because why not? You got the compact to have the shortest package possible, which is going to be your 12-round magazine. If not, you would have bought the mid-size model, which includes 15 rounds. So your backup could easily be 17 rounds. But besides that, pretty much everything was the same. Same soft case, same box. So we'll go ahead and dive into the differences in these weapons, so I'll get a close-up of that. Alright, so we're going to start off doing a size comparison. So we'll go ahead, stack them up beside each other where you can see them. There's not much of a difference. The only difference I noticed was the 509 with the pinky extension on the 12-round magazine is a little less aggressive, so it's going to poke out a little bit less in a holster or what have you. And without the magazine in it, they're pretty much the same. I'll go over that real fast. It's about the same. And then height wise, the 509 is slightly longer. And as far as width, they're exactly the same. The 509 has that curve or angle to the slide now, and the FNS had the cutoffs on it, so it ends up being about the same width. And then the grip is slightly thinner on the FNS, and they cut out a little bit of extra material on the sides right here, which makes it easier to get a good purchase on the firearm, along with that grippy texture. Then the trigger guard is actually slightly bigger on the 509 as well, which I'm guessing is to make up for the extended barrel length and actual frame length. And besides that, they're pretty much the same as far as dimensions. So we'll go over some of the finer details. We talked about the grip. FN 509 has the same stippling on the sides, but they have the new texture on the back strap and the front of the grip. Then they changed the mag releases. I believe the 509 is the same as the other models of 509. People complained a little bit about the Compact's mag release. You can see it. It's almost flush with the weapon, which was supposed to make it snag free, which I never had any issues with it, but people said they couldn't drop the magazine when they pushed it. Maybe they had bigger thumbs than me, I'm not sure, but I never had any issues. Then your slide release is going to be different. With the 509, they actually put serrations along the top of it and curved it out a little bit, so it's easier to release the slide, and it actually is a good bit easier to do so. I had no issues with it. As with the FNS, I really had no issues with that, but you can tell it's less pronounced. It's slick on the top. It has serrations along the side, which really only help with locking the slide into place. And then the takedown lever is the same on both. The rail is pretty much the same. It's got a little bit deeper cut inside of it. What else? Oh, the triggers. We'll go into the triggers. The FNS has a slightly more bowed trigger in the front. It's curved. With the 509, it has a little bit flatter face on it, which is supposed to be easier to pull. And it's really not. I don't get the big difference in it, but we'll go over trigger pull now. While we're talking about the trigger, the trigger on the FNS have a little bit of take up on it. Mine was never gritty. It's always pretty smooth. And then you have, it's about a 4 or 5 pound trigger. It's a little bit mushy on the brake, but it's a pretty decent trigger. Now with the FNS 509, or 509 Compact, sorry, there's a little bit of grit in the trigger, not much, and you've got a super clean brake, but this is a lot heavier trigger, and you know, it may work out with a couple thousand more rounds, but I'm gonna guess this trigger is about 8 or 9 pounds at the moment, which is a little bit disappointing. I mean, they do have Apex triggers on the market now, but this is already a $700 weapon, and then you know you're putting a $200 to $400 optic on it, and then a $150 trigger. You're getting pretty up there. So I would like the trigger to be a little bit lighter out the box. So now we'll go ahead and go over some of the other details. You see they've got this cut along the ejection port now. It has a little bit longer ejector on it. I never had any issues with this one ejecting, but this one seems to have a little bit cleaner pattern. And then of course I talked about your slide serrations a little bit. These deeper serrations really do give you a better purchase than the FNS. I mean, they're about the best that I've ever felt on any pistol. They're just awesome. And then of course you're going to have your suppressor height sights on the 509, which are not night sights. They're just blacked out sights, which is supposed to help with your picking up the dot in your red dot or green dot. That dot looks a lot bigger in video than it really is. But I wish they would have stuck with night sights on it for $700. This pistol came with night sights and an extra magazine for $200 less when I purchased it new. So you know, I wish they would have put the night sights on there and let us make the decision. If you don't like night sights or you didn't want a dot on the front, then you could buy the $50 blacked out sights rather than the majority of people going back and buying $150 or $160 night sights. But now we'll go ahead and go over some of the internal differences. Which I didn't see a whole lot different in these frames. The rails are the exact same size. Pretty much all the internals are identical. So slight changes made to the mold. And then your rails on your slide, all that is pretty much going to be the same too. Your recoil springs, there might be a slight difference in poundage, but they look identical. And the only real difference I've seen, pull these out one at a time, is in the barrel. They have this is the 509. It has a thicker barrel profile than on the original FNS. I think that's for heat dissipation. When you're firing it, obviously more material is going to absorb and dissipate heat easier. But as far as the chamber and everything, there's really no differences besides this little notch up in the top of the 509 as well. And then there's no other differences inside the slide. And I did also notice, you can't see it right now, I have oil on here, but the barrel finish is actually a little bit slicker looking on the 509, but it seems to wear a lot faster. You can see this is the 509. I've already got completely clean spots on it, and this barrel has about 3,000 rounds through it. This one has about 1,000 rounds through it, and there's no bare spots on the FNS. So I'm not sure what they did different there, but they need to go back. So the next thing we'll go over will be I guess about our last would be the mounting system for your optics. So this right here, this little plate, underneath that plate goes this O-ring, and they claim that when you tighten it up, that O-ring compresses, it puts enough tension on the screws so they won't back out when you're firing it. After about 300 rounds on my initial range visit, it did back out, and I didn't have the tool, so I had to wait until the second time I went to the range to tighten them back up. And I tightened them pretty well the second time, as much as I could before I felt like I was gonna strip them out. I didn't use anything that would tell me the torque or foot-pounds I was putting on it. But when I went back to the range, I shot about 600 more rounds, and then about 100 or so defensive rounds, and the sight is still tight now, so maybe it was just not adequately tight the first time. But then on the back side, you're going to have this riser plate, and what that's going to do is allow each optic to have the right height to co-witness with your sights. So you can tell, maybe if I cut it down. No, that doesn't help, does it? It's still super bright. But it does co-witness, and the way you're going to tell is this little chart right here is going to have all your different optics. Now, just because your optic is not on that chart doesn't mean it's not going to fit on here, because most optics out there follow the same design or mounting system as most of the higher end sights that are located on here. So like the Holosun here is going to mount on anything that your RMR, not sure why I just forgot that, your RMR mounts on, and most goes with the other sites. They all just copy the same footprint as the original ones. So we'll go over a little more on just this weapon. Like I said, I took it to the range several times now. I have altogether about 1,000 rounds through it, which will include some footage of. And I've had no bobbles or misfires, light strikes, nothing. The gun runs perfectly. It feels great in your hand, even with just a pinky extension on it. With normal size hands, I imagine you can still get all your fingers on here. The recoil impulse is low. It's a 9mm, but it's still really controllable. You can stay on target fairly easy, and you shouldn't have any problems with it. Just like every other FN pistol I've owned, I've never had any issues with any of them, which is why I always rely on them when I carry. And so that about wraps it up, and now we'll get to the shooting portion. And this is my first video, so if y'all want to like and subscribe, which I shouldn't have to tell you to do, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna do it. And it kind of gets on my nerves when people ask, so I'm not sure why I just did, but you go ahead and do that. But if you have any comments, anything I may have left out, or any improvements that I could make, please leave a comment below, and I'll try and do better next time. So thanks for watching. Alright, we're here at the local range. We're going to shoot a couple rounds through the 509. I already have about 500 or so rounds through here. We're going to take some shots about 7 yards and see how much we can hit the center of the paper.